Hello, it's your boy Turbo Spooky back at it again with another great video. Today we are going to learn how to not die. You'll understand why I'm making this voice momentarily. Please enjoy. We've all been there. You've just gone to a certain place at a certain time on a certain date, done a special thing, and the thing you suspected would happen has just happened. Not to mention the fact that you've just seen whatever it is that lives in your mirror, been told in detail how you're going to die, and the highly demonic and invincible thing that you summoned is heading towards you. Also, your family are all dead, your friends are missing, and you've been framed by someone with access to your bedroom. What do you do now, sweet protagonist? Well, you've come to the right place to find out. These are the simple rules one must follow in order to, firstly, not become the victim of a creepypasta, and furthermore, to come out kicking if the worst does happen. With the help of this guide, you too can be merely a catatonic, traumatized wreck as opposed to the guy currently being worn as a coat by some dude who roams a lot. Just keep these simple rules in mind. Rule number 1. Mirrors and darkness do not mix. Rule number 2. Actually, mirrors are a general no in the creepypasta world. There is nothing more sinister. Rule number 3. There is 0 chance of survival if you look at the thing that no one else can see or answer its question incorrectly. Rule number 4. If you're alone at night in a creepy mental institution, take some time to consider what it is you're doing there. Then, if it is appropriate to do so, leave. Rule number 5. Avoid going to places where everybody else who went there never came back or died inexplicably. Rule number 6. If someone stops your vehicle at night and asks to come with you, it would probably be in your best interest to politely decline. Rule number 7. Killing is the last method of survival. Use it sparingly, but without fear. Rule number 8. Who was phone is always a good thing to ponder. Also, who answers a phone while having sex with a dead person's sexy daughter? A creepy person, that's who. Rule number 9. Get a simple .38 revolver. Load it with 2 silver bullets. If you really feel there is no chance to come out alive of a situation, take 1 shot at whatever it is threatening you. If this does not work, you still have the last shot to become an hero with. Rule number 10. Area 51 is simply too well guarded to let you get in, or to let any alien out. Rule number 11. When going to a hotel, try to stay clear of unauthorized areas. If you couldn't resist but you saw a red thing, take some time to consider the price range and hotel standard on your next visit. Have you ever stayed at a haunted Hilton? Rule number 12. When booking your hotel stay, TripAdvisor can be an invaluable tool in deeming whether your choice is a scene of a multiple murder full of dead people or built at the mouth of purgatory. Local newspapers can also be helpful. Rule number 13. Invoking demons, speaking weird languages, and performing rituals of any kind is considered dangerous. Refrain from doing that, especially around abandoned warehouses, churches, psychiatric institutions, the woods, and your house in front of a mirror at night. Rule number 14. When going to a new area, environmental understanding is key to survival. Ask around for cursed places, legends, dangers, and other details. Listen to the local people's advice, and don't be afraid to ask if you're unsure of which attacks or disappearances are paranormal and which aren't. Rule number 15. Always have a Bible next to your bed. Provides average reading material, proof of beliefs, and a heavy and effective object to throw at enemies. Rule number 16. Don't count on holy water. Get a sturdy vial of sulfuric acid and let a priest consecrate it. Rule number 17. Japanese priests cleanse rooms by waving katana swords around. Their ritual is 100% effective on corporeal forms. Rule number 18. If you find 666 messages on your phone, mailbox, email, etc., consider changing the said service provider. Also, don't bother listening to or reading the messages. It's spam, extra dimensional possibly, but spam nonetheless. Rule 19. Old pharmaceutical companies can't help you. Unless you specifically need the blood of the innocent, snake oil, or radioactive syrup, which is pretty much never. Rule 20. If you need to sign it in blood, you don't need to sign it. All mainstream governing bodies will accept contracts signed in ink. Bear this in mind if offered deals that seem too good to be true. Rule 21. Lighthouses are dangerous. Avoid them at all costs. If you work at a lighthouse, consider a career in insurance sales or veterinary care. Have you ever read The Skeleton Key? Rule 22. There is simply no reason to listen to music that causes suicidal tendencies. Looking at you, Gloomy Sunday. Rule 23. Or to watch films that have had strange or disastrous consequences. Rule 24. If you like to plan ahead and have some money, buy your auntie and uncle a house in Bel Air. Nothing can harm you there, no matter how scared your mother is. Rule 25. Secret, secluded, untouched places in old buildings are left untouched for a reason. Pioneers never say die, but in fact they do have an unusually high mortality rate. Rule 26. Before you start swimming in the ice-cold waters of a murky lake at the center of a dark forest at midnight, ask yourself, do you really want to travel to an ancient and terrifying city? If the answer is no, then stay at home instead and watch whatever quality programming is available on Cinemax. You should know what that means. Rule 27. On your 33rd birthday, try celebrating in a well-lit house with the company of others. Rule 28. Refrain from using the one true name for anything. There's probably a reason people gave it a nickname. Rule 29. Watching TV static for long periods of time may be hazardous to your health. Try satellite TV or Freeview to combat this problem. Netflix and internet streaming are also effective. Number 30. Get a cat. Those furry little hairballs seem to perceive unnatural phenomena better than us, and if desperate, simply throw it at whatever is about to get you. They do make effective weapons. Especially my old cat, yeah. Rule 31. Safety in numbers. If you're getting a bit too freaked out, grab a few friends and any and all firearms, and avoid the area in question. Rule 32. Cemeteries are bad places, especially in foggy conditions and on Halloween. Rule 33. Try not to close your eyes. Ever. If you must do so only briefly. If something has moved from its original location in the time it has taken you to blink, it's recommended that you do not blink again until you have dealt with said object. Fire is presumably the best method. Rule 34. If you ever find an unmarked tape which contains the extension .avi, even if it's of your favorite kids show, do not, under any circumstances, watch that tape. Now, if the extension is .mts, that's a different story altogether. Rule 35. If you hear chanting, run until you're out of earshot. Rule 36. If you're too old to play with dolls, you do not need to be anywhere near one of those creepy little things. Rule 37. Legends can offer valuable insight of where not to go camping with friends. Rule 38. When babysitting, ascertain the family's tastes and preferences to avoid being killed by poorly selected statues. Looking at you, Mr. Clown. Rule 39. Even if you are certain that running will not save you, it's always best to try. Rule 40. If you go to buy a used video game, whether it's at a game shop or a garage sale, never ever buy one with a weird looking cartridge. This includes strange colors, ripped off labels with titles written in marker, The latter tends to be more often than not. For the daring, don't just buy said game to become famous. Your chances of becoming an internet celebrity because of it can only work if you know how to program. You should also be highly suspicious of games priced too cheaply and bootlegs. Rule 41. If you decide to buy the used game anyways, rip it out of your console the moment it starts acting funny and take a hammer to it. A mallet will also work. A sledgehammer would probably work best. Rule 42. If you ever see a strangely new looking doorway with a strange face on it, on a building you swore you didn't see the first time and the building happens to be an old chateau, don't open it. Rule 43. It's probably best to refrain from looking up on Google the phrases "huskies with grins." You'll just end up having to spread the word. Rule 44. Never allow someone to take a picture of you with an outdated camera. If it's too late, your only bet is to gamble with death or just trap him in a photo. That should work. Rule 45. Don't play with dolls if they come with a needle or a defect, especially a defect. Rule 46. Burn Ouija boards, but be sure to have one of those car fresheners handy. The real reason why spirits get angry is because of the foul aroma that it produces when burned. Rule 47. Never confront animated puppets physically. Subdue them with spells or they'll come back with minions or in a real physical body. Rule 48. If you find yourself unable to escape, dancing may ward off the entity. Doing the hokey pokey is known to ward off curious monsters, but you might have to do the moonwalk to deal with zombies. Rule 49. If you're checking your computer for viruses and you go too deep into the System32 files, refrain from clicking on any AVI files. If you do not heed this warning, creepy videos on you, dude. Rule 50. If you see old tapes containing the words happy or appy, pretend you never saw them. Just go on with your life. It'll just end up invoking some whacked out, coked up director of an old children's show, and you'll wind up having to pull some thanks for the ride stuff to kill him. Rule 51. If you buy a used camcorder and find the previous owner left one of their tapes inside, refrain from watching that tape, no matter how tempting it may be. Rule 52. Be careful when buying an old second-hand TV. Rule 53. If you see a guy with both an incredibly large smile and black eyes, extricate yourself from the premises post-haste. Rule 54. Don't go to a friend's house to bake cupcakes if they have random spurts of insanity. Rule 55. Phone companies with low coverage are best avoided. Rule 56. .exe files are not safe. Don't open them. Rule 57. For the love of Neptune, turn off your faucet when you're done with it. Rule 58. If you're told not to look behind you, it's better to do so unless you're against a wall. Rule 59. Also, don't listen to anybody who tells you to go to sleep. It's better to run away. Rule 60. If you see a tall man with tendrils, run. Rule 61. Don't enter strange websites. Rule 62. Don't enter strange places. Rule 63. Not even strange videos. Rule 64. If a woman who covers her mouth asks you if she's beautiful, tell her she's average. This will prevent her from slicing your mouth. You don't want to be like the Joker. He might laugh a lot, but he's not happy. Rule 65. No good can ever come from owning a shiny Pokemon. Rule 66. If you're an intern at a cartoon studio and you happen to be reviewing a new episode, make sure the episode is safe for work before viewing it. Rule 67. Don't be so excited when asking to look behind you, but don't take forever. No reason to keep certain death waiting. Rule 68. Weird stuff in Europe won't hurt you in the United States. Leave that to creeps, Scarecrow, and the creepy dark. Rule 69. Weird stuff in the United States won't hurt you in Europe. Rule 70. Should you break Rule 54, there's always a chance of rescue. Rule 71. If your brother is tired of noise, or if your close friend has a brother like that, refrain from going into his basement unless you want to be tortured and killed and certain other activities. Rule 72. If you buy a memory card and it has saved data on it, delete all the saves. Rule 73. If you get a drawing of Sonic on a disc and the only file on that disc has an exe file called Sonic, don't play it. Destroy it, or a demonic being that looks like a Sonic plushie might kill you. If he chooses not to, he will scar you for life. You know, the normal stuff. Rule 74. If you see what appears to be a 12-year-old kid with black shorts, a gray hoodie, bloody shirt, red shades, dark gray skin, and a maniac grin, do not, under any circumstances, make him angry. Rule 75. Neighbors may have a darker side. If they do things that seem off for them, act normal. Rule 76. In addition to Rule 77, if you hear foreign voices from your body, that means you've been body jacked. Rule 77. If you're an adult and you notice that you're being stalked by a guy with a black suit, long arms, and no face, reach for the nearest child and throw him or her at it, then run. Rule 78. If you are a child in the same situation, run before said adult uses you to satisfy the aforementioned being's craving hunger. If you don't manage to escape before the adult snags you, try bargaining with the entity that the adult has more delicious flesh. Rule 79. The Slender Man, said monster described in the last two tips, feeds on paranoia. If you remember Slender Man only wants a hug, he won't go after you. But if Slender Man does stalk you, run. Rule 80. If all else fails, give Slender Man $20 and he should leave you alone. Rule 81. If you see someone crawling around, it's more likely to be something, and you don't want more information about it. Rule 82. If you're a police officer, state trooper, FBI agent, or any person of authority and you have 2 days left until retirement, if you happen to notice anything suspicious or dangerous to health, get out of there immediately. Rule 83. If you are being chased by any CreepyPasta and feel that you are 100% out of options, attempt to run to wherever Stephen King is doing his next book signing. Your killer will be far too interested in trying to get an autograph to remember what they were doing there in the first place. If Stephen King is not in your general vicinity at the time, R.L. Stine is always available. Rule 84. If you are a CreepyPasta reader and feel like things are getting a little too real, take a break. Rule 85. If you find a magic stick that lets you draw living creatures, don't draw yourself. You may be surprised how angry your creations can get at you. Rule 86. If you wake up in the middle of the woods after having fallen asleep listening to your own heartbeat, take notice that somebody probably put you there, but don't call the police. Publish a book of it and get a movie deal. Rule 87. If you're being offered an orange by a demon, either don't take it or follow the steps from Rule 89. Rule 88. On the third day of the third month of every 33rd year, seal up all the openings to your house, unless you want to be eaten by an evil mist. Rule 89. If you notice that you're being stalked by a screaming child in a skull mask, don't always assume the kid's evil. Just be sure to save the bunch of crunch, should you have any. Rule 90. When reminiscing about your favorite kids show on a message board, take a moment to consider if the episode where all the characters screamed their lungs out was real or not. Also, take a moment to consider if the entire show was real or not. Rule 91. When looking through mysterious, blood-soaked pictures left in your mailbox, check to make sure you locked your doors and windows. Rule 92. Remember, snowmen have feelings too. Rule 93. Stitches is naked. Covering him with the towel will cause him to die. Do so. Rule 94. If your friend disturbingly edits tapes, it's probably a good idea never to try to see him again. Rule 95. If you keep finding broken glass in your home, check to see if the shards match the color of the glass object that was broken. If they don't, run. Rule 96. If Jeff the Killer shows up in your bedroom unarmed and invites you to follow him to his home, for God's sakes, don't do it. Rule 97. And to make an even 100, should you notice that your friend has suddenly developed a personality that's a mix between Heath Ledger's Joker and Beetlejuice, he or she is most likely inhabited. It will be best to keep clear of this person until they return to their normal, boring personality. Rule 98. If you encounter a small creature that looks like a mutant four-armed baby with Jeff the Killer's face, don't listen to it, even if it offers you gold. Rule 99. If you're still using Windows XP and use it every day with the internet, sticking with it is a pretty stupid decision. End of support means more open doors for viruses. And even more doors opening for crazy stuff. Rule 100. Stay far, far away from abandoned amusement parks. Rule 101. If your son starts talking about some sort of doll from any game, do not play the game. Take the gaming system and play baseball with it. Rule 102. If you do play the game and later you hear any tapping noise at any place in your home, yell to your child to lock their door and jump from a window. It is wise to then light the house on fire and then jump from the window with your spouse. Rule 103. Be atheist or convert to any religion that isn't monotheism, so that when a monster says, "I am God," or an insane man says, "God abandoned us," you will chuckle since it's an overused cliche, instead of getting scared by your broken faith. Church always fails to save you from creepypasta, and the Bible is only as good as any other heavy object to throw, so there's no real benefit anyways. Rule 104. Always think twice before doing something stupid or doing something you might regret. Rule 105. If you come across a pro wrestling DVD you haven't heard of, it was likely never released for a reason. Rule 106. If you are browsing the internet and a colorful pop-up says you win, you lose, or you die appears, for God's sakes, do not click on it. Rule 107. If a magic 8-ball gives you anything but yes, no, or maybe, destroy it. Rule 108. Do not go to any halfway house or mental institution you can get yourself into in any city, in any country, unless your name happens to be Legion. Rule 109. If you do end up in any halfway house or mental institution you can get yourself into, do not talk to the receptionist at the front desk. Instead, read a magazine or pamphlet or really any source of reading material on one of the tables in the waiting area. Again, unless your name is Legion. Rule 110. If you do talk to said receptionist at the front desk of the halfway house or mental institution, do not ask for anyone whose name starts with the holder of. unless your name is Legion. Rule 111. Do not collect all 538 objects. There's a reason why they must never come together, unless your name is Legion. Rule 112. If you find a bag with dozens of tapes inside of it, just leave it alone. It might be some kid you punched in the face a while ago and is now out to kill everybody. Rule 113. There are some parts of YouTube you should not be in. Rule 114. Don't kill anyone because you made a page on a website and an admin or someone deleted it. Just don't. You should probably go read a book or something. Rule 115. If you buy used wireless headphones off the internet, rip them off of your head as soon as you hear static or voices. Rule 116. If you attempt to bypass a level in an extremely hard typing game, you might find yourself trying to kidnap children while wearing a chef hat. Rule 117. In addition to Rule 116, there was probably a reason why the level was so hard. Rule 118. If you go camping in the woods and you find a cabin, you should probably leave it alone. You've watched the movies. Rule 119. Everyone's scared of something. If you're not scared of anything, well then, you're a liar. Rule 120. When playing Minecraft, do not set the render distance to tiny. Rule 121. If you do set your render distance to tiny, and you can see a mob that looks like Steve in the distance, set your render distance to full. Rule 122. If said mob is still sighted, delete the game. Rule 123. If said mob, known as Herobrine, is in every game, delete Minecraft. Rule 124. If you're in your bedroom at night and you wake to see a feeble-looking gray humanoid at the end of your bed, do not hesitate in throwing your covers over it and try to punch it to death. And maybe put that Bible that was mentioned earlier to good use. Rule 125. If the previously mentioned creature escapes one's grasp, it will stalk you and maul you, so if sighted again, run. Rule 126. Monsters still bleed. If forced to fight one, don't think that all hope is lost. Rule 127. Better safe than sorry. If you do kill whatever it is that attacked you, don't think you're safe yet. Shoot or stab them in every vital organ you can think of and sever limbs. Burning the corpse or putting it through a meat grinder also helps. Or both. Rule 128. If you hear a banshee screaming its head off, then that's the only sign that you're going to die a slow, painful death. Rule 129. If you have a Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon card that's a very ominous force that either creates death or magic that you never imagined, either burn the card or cut it to pieces with scissors. Abandoning it, for example, taking it to the trash, would simply be making you its next victim. Rule 130. Demonic or spiritual forces can enter any object or person with ease and can be kept out of the object by letting a priest or group of priests do an exorcism, as long as you or any of the members of your family aren't the cause of it. Rule 131. Seek a fortune teller if you happen to have a spiritual experience that would affect your fortune. Rule 132. Rap Rat is not a song artist. In fact, just stay away from anything that concerns him. Rule 133. Slenderman does not always kill out of hunger or boredom. If he's stalking you, ask yourself if your death would benefit humanity. If not, then just throw in the towel because he's coming. Don't believe me? Go ask all those Nazi soldiers found impaled on trees. Rule 134. Hide and seek is an evil game. Rule 135. Before you consider those horrible figments of your deranged imagination your friends, take a good look at their face. If they have yellow eyes or are impossibly deformed, take as many pills as your local psychiatrist is willing to give. Rule 136. If you suspect that an immortal, armless monster wants to put a foot through your stomach, run. Rule 137. If your walls bleed phrases that make no sense, try reading them backwards. Rule 138. If your walls start bleeding in the first place, it's probably best to burn the place down. Rule 139. If that one wall is miraculously unburned, run. Rule 140. Get in shape. The only thing that you can do to evade the majority of creepypastas is to run. Rule 141. If you're paraplegic, make like Happy Wheels and fashion some rockets. Rule 142. If any kind of man or beast appears in your room in the middle of the night, then it's best to stab it and stab it and stab it. Rule 143. If you have no other weapons, put that Bible I told you to keep next to your bed to good use. Rule 144. The creepypastas that become famous can't be forced. They just happen. If you're deliberately putting yourself in danger against a powerful, extremely bloodthirsty being so that you can write a non-profit store to put on a wiki webpage, it may be time to accept that you're a complete idiot. So, follow these simple rules and little or massive harm may befall you. Either way, the important thing is to make sure your tale is told, copied, and pasted repeatedly. Forever yours, Management.